Hey, friends, welcome to my podcast. I don't know what it is about putting together a formal podcast that is so different from what I usually do, which is Facebook Lives. It's really not that different. It's actually should be easier because I'm just on I'm here in my home and I'm just making my own recording and I can edit it later and stuff like that. So really the pressure should be off, but I don't know why I found it to be harder. But I have some important things to share. And I feel called, and I have felt called for a long time now to share the things I'm learning. And it's just, it can be tough, this information that I'm going to share with everybody, because not everyone is going to agree with me. And at the end of the day, that's got to be okay. Because you know what? I I think anybody who's sharing true things, anything that's truth is going to get pushback, is going to get people that, question them and give them critical feedback and question their motives, all sorts of things. So I am about to do that. I'm just getting my setup ready. I'm about to explain to you my motives. I'm about to explain to you why I do what I do, um, why I am so outspoken and have been so outspoken. I think if you know me from my Facebook and maybe even Instagram a little bit, I usually go live on Facebook. Then you probably know enough about me, and if you've been following me for long enough that you don't need this explanation, but maybe you do, because I have changed my views ish in the last, handful of years. I've changed some of how I see the world. So let me tell you, I'm trying to look at what the thing I wrote. Okay, my podcast is called Enlightened Sovereignty. And actually, okay, that's been my name for a while. I did post a few YouTube videos back years ago, um, mostly about yoga and stuff. So I called it Enlightened Sovereignty. And then I created a new website. I paid for everything, email, I did everything, called Creating Liberty. So I'm sort of toying around with both of those names. I do still really like Creating Liberty because I think they go hand in hand. I'm still kind of grappling with the term liberty. So it's in my mind, it's always been, freedom with morals. And I think it's more nuanced than that. So I'm going to stick with for today. I'm a woman. I have a right to change my mind. So anybody does. But for now, I'm going to pick enlightened sovereignty and or maybe yeah. So how about this? It's like the bricks and minifigs thing, we steal from old people, and their tagline was bricks and minifigs. So how about this? My title can be Enlightened Sovereignty, and my tagline can be Creating Liberty. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Okay, so welcome to Enlightened Sovereignty. Everything that I share and where I am now. I do not claim that everything I share is true. It is what I believe. It is what I believe to be true. Okay. It's what I believe at this point in time to be true. As people involved in this fun venture with me, please check me and challenge me. What do I have right? What do I have wrong? I'm happy to hear your opinion, and as long as it is shared in good faith. If you come at me as a jerk, I'm not going to listen to you because it's got to be in good faith. Does that make sense? I do have high ideals and I always strive for truth, but I absolutely do not claim to know everything, or have it all right, have it any right. I'm just like you, I'm just like anybody struggling to find what's true and what's not true. And I have been really, I guess, offended in the past by some things that I believed to be true. I offended myself. Some things that I believed to be true that I've really determined are not true. And which makes sense. The world we live in is so full of propaganda and manipulation, coercion, deception that it makes sense that a lot of the things that we've believed a lot of times our whole life is a lie, is lots of lies. So this podcast does begin with one foundational belief that Jesus Christ is the light of the world. I believe that God came to earth in human form as Jesus. And I don't even getting into the Trinity. I don't know. If you believe they're three separate beings, that's fine. I'm kind of in the place where I don't believe that, but I'm open to it. I don't think it matters as much as I used to think it did. So I believe that God came to earth in human form as Jesus, not merely to establish another religious institution. I'm going to put emphasis on that, but to reveal truth. To reveal truth, awaken humanity, and show us what it means to live in direct relationship with God. I believe Christ existed before his birth in Bethlehem. I believe he is the divine light spoken of throughout Scripture, the light that enters darkness, the light that exposes deception, the light that turns tables, the light that restores sight, that offers unconditional love, that reminds us who we truly are. While I acknowledge the Old Testament and its place in the biblical story, I also wrestle with parts of it. My foundation is the New Testament, particularly the words, life, and teachings of Jesus Christ. I believe his words as best as we have them. Jesus is the lens through which I seek to understand God. He taught love rather than domination, truth rather than blind conformity, mercy rather than condemnation, discernment rather than fear. He taught that the kingdom of God is not merely something distant, external, or reserved for religious elite or some later time. He said that the kingdom of God is among us and even within us. He spoke of light, vision, faith, healing, spiritual authority, transformation, and the power of belief. Lots of other things. That's the list I came up with. He withdrew into solitude. He fasted. He prayed. He laid his hands upon the sick. He perceived what others could not see. He challenged religious leaders who placed human traditions above truth. Okay, I say that again. He challenged religious leaders who placed human traditions above truth. And he repeatedly invited ordinary people to awaken, listen, seek, knock, and understand. Yet I believe much of institutional Christianity has narrowed his message. Not calling out every church, okay? I'm just saying, I think a lot of mainstream Christianity has some things wrong. That's all. It has sometimes replaced spiritual transformation with rule following, legalism, personal discernment with institutional permission, and the living teachings of Jesus with rigid traditions developed long after Jesus walked the earth. Certain spiritual subjects are often dismissed immediately as strange, dangerous, occult, or even witchcraft, sometimes without asking whether elements of those ideas might actually resemble things Jesus himself taught and practiced. Sorry, I didn't turn my beeping off. So I'm not interested in abandoning Christ in pursuit of spirituality. I am interested in recovering the spiritual depth of Christ's teachings. I want to explore what Jesus may have meant when he spoke about the eye being the lamp of the body, about faith moving mountains, asking and receiving, becoming filled with light, and being born of the Spirit. Also doing works through the union with God, which union means yoga. That's interesting. I want to examine the difference between genuine and spiritual authority and religious control, between faith and superstition, between divine sovereignty and human domination, between between truth that liberates and systems that keep people afraid, dependent, and spiritually asleep. Wow, yes. The title I chose for my podcast, Enlightened Sovereignty, seeks to discuss true human sovereignty as Jesus taught it, and how we as fellow humans of earth can bring that heaven to earth and create it here and now. We can be sovereign right now. I believe that is what God desires most for his people. By sovereignty, I do not mean selfishness, isolation, or the belief that we owe nothing to anyone. Quite the opposite. True freedom/sovereignty includes responsibility and being like Jesus. We are to follow him and do the things that he did. Jesus did not teach domination. He taught service. True sovereignty begins with recognizing that no earthly institution owns the human, period. I wrote down human soul, but owns the human. No earthly institution is in charge. Jesus flipped, who bought the earth? Who owns the earth right now? Nobody owns the earth. That's God. It's God. Jesus flipped the tables on those types of people, and it's about time we do the same. The banks own us, you guys. Our highest allegiance belongs to God. Our conscience matters. Our agency matters. Our ability to make our own choices. Our bodies, minds, families, communities, and spiritual lives should not be surrendered casually to people or institutions claiming authority over us. But sovereignty without light can become pride. And spirituality without Christ can lose its foundation. To me, in my opinion. For me, Jesus holds these truths together. He teaches that we are accountable to God, yet free from the tyranny of men. That we are individuals, yet responsible for one another. That power should be expressed through service, serving one another, taking care of one another. That truth should produce freedom. Truth should produce freedom. And that light is not meant to be hidden. This podcast will explore scripture, faith, spiritual principles, history, law, trusts, government, money, personal responsibility, health and nutrition, institutional power, and in general, the search for truth. Yeah, that's a lot of things. I get it. I didn't want to limit myself at all. Some ideas might challenge conventional religious thinking. Others may challenge political, legal, or financial assumptions that we have inherited without examination. Most of what we do is a tradition that we have inherited without even thinking about it. I do not claim to possess every answer, but I believe sincere questions are not a threat to truth. Truth can withstand investigation. And I believe Jesus repeatedly invited people to see beyond appearances, to question hypocrisy, to discern spiritual reality, and walk courageously in the light. And honestly, to do what is right no matter what. No matter what. That's tricky. I know that's tough. A lot of people are really doing wrong, corrupt, bad things because they don't want to be killed. I get it. I think they're wrong. I think that's why so many of us are enslaved, because everyone's afraid. God didn't make you to be afraid. God made you to be strong. God made you to be powerful. God made you to be his warrior. If you really trusted in God, if you believed the words that he said, especially in the Bible and the New Testament, you wouldn't be afraid. You wouldn't be afraid of somebody killing you. You'd boldly state what's true. You'd boldly do what's true. You'd boldly do what's right and not give a damn about the consequences. That's what you would do if you were a true believer. That might be harsh. Maybe that's too harsh to say. I don't know. So, this is the foundation of everything that follows. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. His teachings are my starting point. Truth is the pursuit, and enlightened sovereignty is the journey. Okay, I just did my whole first topic, thought I was recording it, and I wasn't. And it was really, really good too. Uh, okay, well, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started right away in our first topic. And hopefully, the second time I do it is just as good as the first. So let me rewind. Okay, we are going to go all the way back in my writings here and talk about a theory, a principle that you may or may not agree with. Okay, the topic is, or the question, I should say, the question is, could the Bible be understood as a trust indenture for humanity? What do you think about that? Do you know enough about trusts to have an opinion about whether or not the Bible is our first trust indenture? Okay, so here's the theory. And here's what I wrote down. I originally said it's not like you can file it in a court of law. And then the first time I made this recording, I'm like, actually, yeah, you can. You totally can, because the Bible is recognized in courts of law. We swear on the Bible all the time in courts of law. So the Bible is the basis of courts. Something to think about. Okay. The Bible, though, was not drafted as one legal instrument, and it was written over many centuries, and it contains history, law, poetry, prophecy, letters, parables, and theology. Here we go. If we look deeper, though, into the structure of trust law, you have stewardship, delegated authority, property, beneficiaries, duties, and accountability. The comparison becomes really powerful. It presents biblical stewardship as a philosophical foundation for fiduciary principles. Its central idea is that possession does not necessarily mean absolute ownership. This is where I might ruffle a few feathers because I'm essentially saying that private property isn't really a thing. There I go, being controversial right off the bat. And that authority over property carries duties of preservation, loyalty, and accountability. Just hear me out, okay? So let us start with the basic elements of a trust. Four elements of a trust. Usually people will say three, but got to include the trust property. So the first thing is the grantor. The grantor is the source of the property, the one who establishes the purpose. Who do you think the grantor is? In the Bible concept, of course, it's God. Then you have the trustee, and that is the person or the people who administer the trust, who are given authority over administering the trust. They have to abide and obey the rules and the bylaws, everything of that trust. The third is the beneficiaries. These are the people, which, by the way, beneficiaries doesn't have to be a a human, which has a whole other meaning, a being. It can be another trust. Beneficiary can be another trust. So just keep that in mind. But beneficiaries, that's who ultimately is going to benefit from the property. And the whole point of a trust is the property, is the trust res. It's also called the corpus. So without property, you really have no trust. With the Bible, obviously the property is what? Correct. It's the earth and everything in it. It's the resources. It's also etherical things like spiritual things too. Um, so there are governing duties, loyalty, care, preservation, good faith, and accountability. So if we look at the opening chapters of Genesis and we look at this whole topic through that lens, the creator is the originating source of life, land, authority, and order. So it's God, right? God is the creator. And here we're again going to get into some Trinity questions. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what you believe. If you believe they're three in one, or if you believe they're all three separate beings. I believe the three in one thing, maybe a little bit of modalism. I don't know. I don't know where I am right now. Is that okay? So, but if you believe they're separate, that's okay too. So I believe God is the grantor. He's the creator of the trust. And to strengthen this argument that the Bible is the trust indenture, the first trust indenture, God basically created the earth, created us, created everything, and said, here, and gave it over to his trustees. Okay, so I'm gonna rewind a little bit. The earth and its resources are the estate, are the property. The human beings are given dominion, but that dominion is paired with responsibility. Humanity is told to cultivate, keep, preserve, govern, and multiply what has been entrusted. So, who are the trustees besides us? So, I believe, well, and the book I'm reading states that Jesus Christ is the first trustee. He is God on the earth. He actually did come down in human form. So he's not the grantor, he is the God of the earth. Um he is a bit allowed and has the ability to be the first trustee. And then I would say as adults are the additional trustees because if you look at who our beneficiaries are in this example, it's like our children, it's the needy, it's dumb people. I don't want to be too mean, but like people that aren't able to critically think, and aren't into their full maturity yet. People are going to judge me for this, I'm sure. But so we are given dominion over the planet, over the earth, and that comes with responsibility. We are the trustees, and we have to carry out the way God intended for it to be carried out. We have a big responsibility as a trustee. We could be fired if we don't administer the trust the way it's intended to be administered. We should be kicked out. We should be fired. Kind of like our trustee. Guess who the trustees are of the United States Public Trust Doctrine? Our elected officials. Should they be kicked out of their position? Okay. That's for you to decide and me to have an opinion about as well. Okay. So this is all sounding like we don't really own anything and we'll be happy. But it's more like delegated stewardship. Okay. And that whole phrase of you will own nothing and you'll be happy. I didn't even say this in my first recording, is true. Like, okay, one thing, we don't own anything. We already don't. The government owns it all. Banks slash through the government owns it all. So it's already true. We already don't own anything. But on the other hand, a lot of people think they do. Um, on the other hand, the way that you will own nothing and you'll be happy is by creating trusts. You create trusts to protect your property and give it to the beneficiaries that you'd like to give it to. Then you'll be happier knowing your property is being administered the way you'd like it to be. So coming back to the whole Bible thing, it's delegated stewardship over the property. So we don't really have true ownership. The true ownership, well, okay, I'm thinking on the spot here because the beneficiaries really do have the benefits of that property. They are receiving all the benefits. So they kind of are the true owner, but the one who holds the title. Now I'm thinking about this. So I'm still just learning. I'm in the process of learning. So please chime in, let me know what you think. So the one who holds the title is God, and he takes that title and he grants it. So I guess technically the trustees have the title, have the authority. And who are the trustees again? I'd say anyone but the government. The government has proven time and time again, especially in 2026, to be absolutely corrupt and absolutely not doing the job of administering the trust the way it's laid out to be. They're wicked and evil on every level. So they don't deserve to be trustees. So this is where we have to just really understand what it means to be a trustee in America. It means somebody who understands the stewardship they've been given by God, and that they need to maintain the property, the earth, the way God laid out. And if we don't have this trust indenture, what's our standard? What's our standard for truth? That's why I stick to the Bible, specifically the New Testament, but that's why I'm kind of just like I have to start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere. And if we don't have that, then what do we have? Then it's just kind of chaos. It's all my truth and your truth. So I kind of went on a tangent, but the absolute owner of the earth and everything, the trust res, might say this: it belongs to me, and I may use it or destroy it, whatever I want to do. But a trustee can't say that because you might have Americans that are like, it's my property, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, but no, not really. A trustee cannot say that. A trustee holds authority, but that authority is restricted by purpose. The trustee is expected to preserve the estate and administer it faithfully for others. Are you a trustee or are you a beneficiary? I think in this example, we're kind of both, but once we get to be a really mature adult, and I would say maybe around 40, I don't know, you're really starting to change your focus of life, and your focus becomes on your progeny and the generations following you. You start to really hone in on, what am I doing now that's going to better society in the future, that's going to better the earth, it's going to show or help the beneficiaries. What am I doing? What am I doing now? Um, so the central point made in the book I was referring to was that the idea of dominion can be interpreted not as arbitrary control, but as authority joined to responsibility. So it's more of a responsibility, regrets. So the creator is our grantor. The creator of the trust, the creator of the earth is God. Creation as the trust estate, and humanity as steward or co-trustee, Jesus Christ being the first trustee. What's some evidence of this? In Psalm 24 expresses the underlying ownership claim clearly. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. That statement challenges the idea that human beings possess ultimate title in an unrestricted sense. Human beings may occupy, cultivate, inherit, transfer. I pause because I'm thinking of like Native Americans, and um they're really good at this. They're really good at saying it all belongs to God, and that we're just temporary sojourners here on the earth. So human beings may occupy, cultivate, inherit, transfer, manage, and benefit from property, but within the biblical framework, ultimate ownership remains above them. That principle appears again in Leviticus, where the land is described as belonging to God, and the people are described as temporary occupants or sojourners. In trust language, one might say that humanity possesses administrative authority and beneficial use, but not absolute unlimited ownership. That's true, because the trustee can't ultimately also be the beneficiary. So I said you can kind of be both. But like if you're truly understanding stewardship, you realize that it's all for the next generation. It's all to benefit those who come after you and those who are maybe less fortunate than you. In trust language, one might say that humanity possesses administrative authority and beneficial use, but not absolute. I know I already read that. Just reading it for emphasis. So, who benefits from this arrangement? I know I've talked about the beneficiaries a lot already, but listen to what I've said so far. If you're like really of age, and maybe some people really get it in their 20s, but I doubt it. If you're 30, probably 40, maybe 50, maybe a little older, you're mature enough in your mind, assuming you're healthy, to understand that it's the people under that are less fortunate than you, that are under your that are your progeny, that are younger than you, that are the real beneficiaries that you need to watch over and take care of it until they become of age and they can become trustees. So think of the people we need to protect, and vulnerable people like the poor, the needy, the widows, the orphans, the debtors, the servants. Interesting, the debtors. We're kind of all debtors, aren't we? The servants, the future generations. That's the main one I was talking about. Even the land itself is given periods of rest. The rules concerning gleaning required landowners to leave part of the harvest for the poor and the stranger are in the Bible, as the first fruits. Give of your first fruits. Debt release laws limited perpetual bondage. Hmm. Jubilee principles restrained permanent concentration of land and wealth. Think of that. Inheritance laws preserved continuity between generations. That's why you create trusts, guys. These rules suggest that property was not treated as existing solely for the immediate personal appetite of the person holding it. It's really not intended to be a greedy thing. It's supposed to be done in sacredness, in honor for those that are less fortunate than you. So property carried obligations, according to the Bible. That is a deeply fiduciary idea. A trustee does not ask only, what am I legally able to do? A trustee must also ask, what is the purpose of the estate? What's the purpose? And you could probably see where I'm going with this with the Constitution, right? Whose interests am I required to protect? Who are the trustees again of the Constitution? Yeah, they're not upholding to their end of the bargain, are they? Not even close. That's why we the people need to step in. We are the authority. We are the ones. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but the trustees are either asleep on the job, but not even that. They are sadistically, maniacally, obviously trampling on every bit of this, and they are not upholding their end of the bargain, not even close. And you might think, oh, well, then charities need to come over and take over that role. Yeah, we've seen how that's worked out with all the NGOs that are funded by Soros and what was it called? USA Aid or something, USAID. I they're all funded by evil PDFs. Like we have to be really smart what charities we determine are should be trustees over the earth, honestly, because the government's shown to be corrupt and PDFs, NGOs, charities have shown to be um, PDFs that want to control and destroy and abuse and harm and murder. Um, anyways, going back to my writing, whose interests are we required to protect? What exactly needs to be preserved? What will I eventually be required to account for? This is an accounting thing, you know? The last question is accountability, and it is everywhere in the Bible. The biblical stewards are repeatedly called to give an account. Jesus tells stories about servants entrusted with money, property, households, vineyards, and authority. The faithful steward administers wisely. The unfaithful steward wastes, exploits, conceals, or abuses. Oh, I forgot my fake mic. What was entrusted? The master returns, and the accounts are then examined. I have a real mic, by the way. It's just being lent out to somebody to make an audio of their own book. So that is not merely a moral lesson about being a nice person, because everyone's super nice, especially in Utah. It is a recognizable structure of fiduciary administration. Authority is granted by God, property is entrusted, duties are attached, administration occurs, and an accounting follows. Now, you might think that sounds like the parable of the talents. Well, there you go. It is especially clear the servants are entrusted with property according to their capacity. They do not own the property outright. They are expected to administer it productively and faithfully. When the grantor returns, each servant is required to account for what was done with the entrusted estate. Again, that sounds remarkably like trusteeship. Then there is the concept of covenant. A covenant, it's basically just a promise, it's a contract, is more than a casual promise or one-time transaction. It establishes a continuing relationship governed by duties, loyalty, identity, and accountability. Trusts also create continuing relationships. A trust is not merely the transfer of property from one hand to another. It establishes an ongoing structure in which authority is restrained. It's restrained. Okay? Authority is restrained by purpose and obligation. The trustees don't have all the power. In fact, they really don't have any power. They can only carry out what the trust says they can do. U.S. Constitution. That original. That is why the language of covenant and the language of trust fit together so naturally. We could describe the biblical framework this way. God is the ultimate source of authority and title. Creation is the entrusted estate. It's property res, it's the trust res. Humanity is appointed as steward, with Jesus Christ as first trustee. The vulnerable, the community, the future generations are all protected beneficiaries. So the children. 2. Biblical law supplies the terms of administration, and judgment represents the final accounting. So, what do you think? Does this prove the Bible is our first trust indenture? The fact that the Bible is in every court, it should be in every court of law, that people swear an oath on the Bible. I know it's become meaningless. I get it. I get it. Anyways, we shouldn't discount all the evidence that there is for that. If you think about ancient civilizations who also had contracts, they had property transfers, inheritance instruments, legal codes, guardianship arrangements, and temple administrations before much of the Bible reached its final written form. So, the Bible teaches that authority is delegated, property is entrusted, possession is not the same as unrestricted ownership. The powerful owe duties to the vulnerable. Who are the powerful? You might say the politicians or the media. I mean, honestly, can't we all just admit that the powerful are the people with money and the people with influence because of the people with of influence influenced by the people with money? Can we just be honest and say the powerful in our world is money, is people with money? And yeah, elected officials are elected with gobs of money from their influential friends. Let's not be stupid here. Um, but at the end of the day, the estate, the earth, it must be preserved. It must be protected. And the vulnerable humans therein must be also protected and preserved. And the people who are acting as trustees right now clearly do not value human life. They do not value the earth. They do not value goodness. They do not value morals. They do not value kindness and love. They don't value anything that the Bible lays out. And they need to be fired post haste. um, that's where we, the people, step in. That's where in our trust indenture in America, which is the US Constitution, we have the ultimate authority. We are the authority. The consent of the governed. We are the authority. We have let that get away from us. We have obfuscated our duties in America, and we've become lazy and stupid. Yes, it's all been a part of the plan. Yes, it's all been by design, but we've got to wake the crap up and preserve whatever we can for the next generation because our country's falling. America's falling. It totally is. That's not good. It's not bad. It just is. And you can say bad things. You can say things like PDFs rule the world and they murder and plunder and steal from us and enslave us and still have a smile on your face and still not be affected internally. Still not let that bring you down in a level of low vibration and not resonating with the spirit. You can say things that are true, that are seen as ugly or bad, and still be in a state of love and a state of forgiveness and kindness. Okay. We must act as the stewards that God assigned us to be. And if we're sitting on our butts just waiting for Jesus to come back and trying to be obedient to the tyrants, is that really what God expects you to do? Pause for effect. I don't think so. I don't think God wants us to sit on our butts waiting for him. I don't think God is asking anyone, maybe some people, maybe the vulnerable, maybe the people who really can't for lots of reasons. There's lots of reasons that could be the case. But without the people that could critically think and have the will to stand up and do what is right, no matter the consequence, without those kinds of people, America is totally screwed. We need people who are willing to actually do and say what is right, no matter the consequence. No matter the consequence. If we live in a state of fear and we're not acting as the good stewards that God called us to be on this planet, then we are shirking our duty and we are basically saying, yeah, I don't care what you say, God. I'm just going to do what I want. I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be seen as a rebel. I don't want to be seen as somebody who you know, is not agreeable. And Jesus. Was Jesus seen as not agreeable? Was Jesus seen as a rebel? We're all held accountable. And if you ever feel like I'm pointing fingers at you, I'm pointing the same finger at myself because I'm not perfect and I make a lot of mistakes. And I'm also guilty of pretty much everything I say. We have to act faithfully as stewards, as trustees of this earth. Every administrator ultimately gives an account. That's you, that's me. We're going to account to our creator at some point. What are you going to say? Oh, they said I might go to Facebook jail. Oh, I might have lost my job. I might have like whatever your excuses, that's fine. We all watched everybody in 2020 sell their what is it? Mess of potted, whatever that is. You have the porridge, shoot, the mess of pottage, right? Am I saying that right? Um, we sold our birthrights. So many of us did in 2020 just to fit in. I think a lot of people really, really fell for it, really did for a lot of the time. But I think once the majority of people were like, oh, okay, I was had. They still played along. They still didn't say anything. They still stayed quiet. So, anyways, everything I've been talking about is the heart of trust law. And perhaps that's why the concept feels so true, so ancient, so familiar if you read the Bible a lot. Long before modern statutes, banks, corporate trustees, estate plans, all that kind of stuff, we had the Bible that created trust law. Um, okay, so here's a question. When something valuable is placed in your hands, does it belong to you? Absolutely. Or are you responsible for how you administer it? The biblical answer is unmistakable. You are not merely the owner, you are a steward, and stewardship always carries responsibility. And I know that's a little controversial because there we have again the US Constitution, which lays out property as a number one important feature of humanity. But who gets the property? Somebody needs to make that decision. And if it's not righteous, obedient, good stewards of the planet who understand biblical principles, then who is it? Certainly not the government, certainly not NGOs. It's got to be you and I. It's got to be good, decent, actual grassroots people who get together and say enough is enough. We are going to stand up for what's right. We are actually going to become good stewards and become the trustees that God has entrusted, that God has called us to be. So I want you to consider what I said today and give me some feedback. I really want this to be like I really liked doing the lives because I could interact with people during. Um, and so let me know if you'd rather see more lives. I don't know. I'm just getting started. I just wanted to finally put something out there. And I'm looking at myself in my camera. The computer I'm using just there's nothing I do. Like it just follows me. I don't know how to change that, but I swear I'm wearing clothes. I just realized you can pretty much just see my shoulders. And let me know what you want me to change with my background. It's really boring. It's just a couple plants. This old faithful snake plant has been hanging on a long time. It's still looking pretty good, but it's seen better days. I've got a little thing that says, "Thanks to the Lord." My favorite scripture is "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart." And that one's a fake plant, so it looks good. But anyway, oh, and that says breathe. I've had that for years. I loved, I don't remember where I bought it, but you guys, we just got to remember to breathe. Nobody's perfect. I think a lot of us really are trying our best. But we need to check. We need someone to check us. We all do, myself included. And just ask yourself, what could I be doing better? What am I feeling passionate about? What's God calling me to do? And do that. Just do that. Do that thing. Be brave. Be brave. Put yourself out there. What I'm doing right now, I feel like it's brave because I'm putting myself out there. I'm definitely putting myself out there to be judged. Here's my thoughts. Here's my opinion. Here's my personality. Here's my image. Here's me. I'm like, "Eh." And now like who's gonna spit on it? Who's gonna say, I hate you, you suck. You're so wrong about this or that. Oh well, like you gotta be brave, you guys. We all have to be brave and we have to stand up. We have to speak up. We're losing our rights right and left. We're losing freedom of speech. We can't say people are being arrested for Facebook posts. That's really happening in America. It's actually happening. We're being surveilled on around every corner, on every level. And and people are like, "Oh, that's fine. That's no big deal." Like, I don't want to change topics, so I'm going to keep it on the trust topic. So I'm going to finish, and I want you just to think about trusts, and I'm going to help educate you about them. And it may have been an unexpected way that you didn't think I would go with my first podcast, but there you go. It's about the Bible. I think we have to start somewhere. There has to be a foundation. And if we don't have a foundation, if it's not like a physical thing written down somewhere, then what is our standard? I just feel like there has to be some standard. And that is what we have. That is what our laws are created from. And that's good, bad, or ugly. That's just the reality. That's true. And I think it's good. I think it's good and righteous, and it's not perfect, but I do think it's good. So anyways, I hope you have a great day. Let me know what you want to see. I know I have a whole post where I have a whole list where you guys said what you wanted to see in my podcast. So I hope you have a great day. And my outro today is just going to be peace,
All right.
spirituality. How do I turn this off? I'm going to say it again. I'm not interested in abandoning spirit and doing works through the union with God. Union with God. Do you know union is yoga? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. How do I turn this off? I am not very good with technology, so I will try to figure this out in the moment, which, I'm gonna have to pause this. Settings. Oh, you guys. Focus. I think it's focus, right? Focus? Yes. Oh, I do know what I'm doing. Do not disturb. Focus status on. All right, I'm gonna get back to it. Back to it then. You ever watched Chit? Okay. My making a podcast. Oh, I need some lipstick on. Hold on. Pause. Well, I guess I can just keep it recording.